Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, we are going to tackle a question about the Dragon Ball universe that seems really simple on the surface, but trust me, the answer is wild.
So, let me ask you, what do you think is the most common technique in all of Dragon Ball? Go on, take a guess. If the first thing that popped into your head was a certain giant blue energy wave, well, you are in for a serious surprise. The real answer has been hiding in plain sight this whole time.
Okay, before we really get into the weeds, we got to lay down some ground rules. For this explainer, when we say technique, we mean a specialized named ability. So we're not counting just, regular punches or your standard ki blast. We are looking for the signature moves, the stuff that makes these characters who they are.
This whole investigation really kicked off with just a random thought I had while rereading the manga. I started noticing, man, a lot of characters use telepathy. Way more than you'd think.
So I actually did the math, and get this, there are at least 25 characters who use telepathy. You've got King Kai and Piccolo chatting across dimensions, Master Roshi reading minds at the World Tournament, even Goku himself uses it. 25 users. That's a huge number for sure, but believe me, it is just the tip of the iceberg. All right, let's talk about the usual suspect. When you think of a common Dragon Ball technique, the Kamehameha is almost always the first one that comes to mind, right? But is it really as common as we all believe? Let's actually list them out. You've got the original Turtle School crew, Roshi, Goku, Krillin, Yamcha, and Grandpa Gohan. Then you have Tien, who just straight up copied it. And of course, Gohan and Goten, who learned it as a family thing. And finally, you have the mimics, Cell and Majin Buu. I mean, when you see it all laid out, the list is surprisingly short, isn't it? So when you add them all up, you get a grand total of 11 users. Maybe. And that's if you're being generous and counting Goku Black as a totally separate person. A move that we all think of as this universal attack is actually part of a very exclusive club. So this is where the mystery really kicks into high gear. If this single most famous attack in anime history isn't the most common, one in its own series, then what in the world is? And here's where things get absolutely wild. It turns out there are several god-tier elite techniques that are actually more common than Goku's signature move. Yeah, you heard me right. Just take a look at this. Let's start with the divine state of Ultra Instinct. That's known by all 12 angels, the Grand Priest, Miras, Goku, and even Beers can kind of tap into it. That's at least 16 users right there. Same thing for Hakai, the destruction technique. It's basically a job requirement for all 12 gods of destruction. Plus we've seen Goku, Vegeta, Toppo, and Granola use it. Again, at least 16 users, blowing past the Kamehameha. These aren't just random moves, they're literally built into the divine hierarchy. And it doesn't even stop there. The Supreme Kai's own personal teleportation move, Kai Kai? Yeah, every single Supreme Kai across all the multiverses knows it, plus their attendants like Kibito. And it was even copied by Kid Buu. That is another technique with at least 16 users. So even the special moves of the gods are more common than the Kamehameha, but we're still not even close to the real answer. Okay, now we get to our first major contender in this race, instant transmission. And this is where the numbers start to get really fun.
Now at first glance, the list of named users seems pretty small. You've got Goku, of course, Cell, who learned it after blowing himself up, and a few others from the Dragon Ball Super manga like Vegeta and the Yardrats we've actually met. This list is even smaller than the Kamehamehas. Or is it?
This single line from the manga changes absolutely everything. When we finally see how the Yardrats train, it's revealed that, for them, instant transmission is a basic technique. So basic, in fact, that the entire population knows how to do it. And since we know there's a planet Yardrat in Universe 7 and one in Universe 2, we can start to do some math. Using a very conservative, lowball number of just a couple thousand Yardrats on each planet, we get to a staggering total of around 4,000 users. 4,000. But, and you're going to love this, even that is not our winner.
So what could possibly top thousands and thousands of teleporters? The real answer, well, it's a technique that's so fundamental to Dragon Ball now, we barely even notice it anymore.
That's right. The single most common specialized technique in all of Dragon Ball is Bukujutsu, or, just flight, the ability to fly using ki. And the numbers here are just staggering. So how in the world did we get to our final answer? Well, it was a pretty simple three-step process. First, we went through and counted every single named character who's confirmed to fly. Then we added all the unnamed background characters we see flying. And finally, we factored in entire populations that we can reasonably assume have this ability.
Just starting with the named characters alone, the list is immense. After digging through every chapter and every guidebook, the total number of individual named characters who can fly is a whopping 116. That's already 10 times the number of Kamehameha users right out of the gate.
Next, let's add the armies. You've got the 7 Cell Juniors, all those countless Frieza soldiers you see flying in the big battle scenes, Moros escaped prisoners, Zeno's guards. When you add every single unnamed character who is definitively shown flying on screen, the number jumps to an incredible 397.
But here is the final massive leap. Since even non-combatant Saiyans are shown flying, it's safe to say pretty much all Saiyans can. So that's thousands from Universe 7 and Universe 6. Then you add the Namekians, because even a little kid like Dende could fly, and Frieza's entire massive army. Our lowball estimate for the total number of characters who can use flight skyrockets to over 11,000. Let that sink in. Over 11,000 users.
And hey, just for a little bit of fun trivia to wrap things up, the very first character we ever see using what looks like key-based flight in the series, it wasn't one of the Z-Fighters, it wasn't some powerful villain, it was Puar, of all characters.
So, there you have it. Flight is the undisputed champion. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other common knowledge about the shows we love might be completely and totally wrong? Thanks for joining me for this breakdown.